Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GSFE Admins Podcast. My name is Lance Lennon. I'm the Technology Director for the Eagle Grove Community School District, a nice little community in north central Iowa.
I'm Chad Fricks, Director of Technology from Spirit Lake Community School Districts in northwest Iowa.
All right, I'll go. Hey, this is Phil Trimble, Pocahontas Area Community School District IT Director.
Karl here, Director of Technology, Ames Community Schools down in Ames, Iowa.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We took a month off. August is, of course, for most of us, time getting ready back to school, getting things setting up, doing our jobs. And so, good month to take off. We were together, minus Phil, but plus Tim Lee, in July in Wisconsin. I do want to do a little plug here that we're going to do that again next year. We did the Google for Education Admins Conference in the Wisconsin Dells. We'll do that again next July. Be watching for that. Had a good turnout for the inaugural. Hopefully we'll be bigger next year, and people that went seemed to like it. And if they had one complaint, it was the food.
That's, really your conference isn't too bad if they're complaining about the food. You're doing
and I don't blame them. The food was interesting. Just wasn't your typical conference food.
We'll blame Lennon for picking the food.
You can blame me all you want. I got broad shoulders. All righty. So I can handle it. Not a problem. But so let's go through what's new. We had, like I said, a month off. Anything discovered? Chad, we'll start with you. Did you discover anything new this summer?
Oh, I discovered all kinds of new crap, but I can't remember any of it. It's been a little bit of a rocky start to my year. And I don't know if I want to go into that or not, but due to a school board decision, we got our one-to-one replacement devices actually after the first day of school. So it's been a little bit of a hectic month, and it's still hectic. I have part of the devices. So we got the new ASUS flips that run Android apps. One thing I did discover that I think my second grade teachers are going to like is a new little charging dock that can fit 8 of them and then charge via USB. So the new USB chargers are going to work with those. It does say low voltage charging. It may take longer when it's plugged into them, but through testing, it did work after the second round of cables. So that's another thing I learned. When ordering USB-A to USB-C cables, not all cables are made equally. Some support charging, some do not. So make sure you test the ability to return said cables when they don't work. I'm actually on my 3rd set, and the 3rd set works to charge those new Chromebooks, which are really pretty cool.
Chad, can you tell us them all deployed? Can you tell us the type of cable that is then, or so we don't make the same mistake?
Look that up on Amazon. I ordered it on Amazon. All right. And it's also difficult to order. How many did I order? Like 125 USB-A to C cables. They come from various shipping centers and arrive at various times throughout the week. So then you have to piece it together and make sure you got all 125 in the end. But yeah, I'd have to look it up, Phil. I don't know off the top of my head.
So
they were the nicer braided ones.
Your charging station then is for any USB device. So you're converting that USB-A to a USB-C so it works with those Chromebooks then. It's not a USB specific one?
Correct. Yep. Not USB-C specific. So
I'll say that 3 times fast.
Unit USB-C specific? That was hard. I said it right the first time, and then I screwed
You did. You said it perfectly. I was amazed. I was impressed.
So we're using Unitech. I worked with Unitech for these little charging docking stations. I worked with a company called Unitech, UNITEK. I got a hold of a demo unit of a model they hadn't yet released over the summer, earlier summer, when I was prepping to do all of this, and then ended up ordering a whole bunch because we're going to use them to charge our iPads too that are in K through 1 grades, which don't need a special cable. You can use the one that Apple provides to charge those, thankfully. But nice Unitech. They just have little plastic dividers, and the devices sit on there sort of horizontally. It takes up way much less space than anything else out there. Devices. I'm not a big fan of the big freaking metal ones that lock up, I suppose. Some people might need that to keep their things safe, but in the 8 years we've been doing one-to-one, I've had one device successfully stolen. One device that we couldn't recover, and that was back when we had Macs. So,
how many devices do you have in a classroom then, Chad?
So it depends. So they either have 3 or 4 of those docks because they'll hold 8 a piece. So depending, we have nearing, above the 24. So we have 3 or 4 depending on the student count. And they're much cheaper. Even 3 or 4 of those is cheaper than the cheapest enclosure, which is also handy when you're budget crunched.
Mm-hmm.
But the chat is, I just want to real quick, Carl, sorry to interrupt. Okay. The chat is available. I put in the chat. It was Unitech, UNITEK, you said, Chad?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So I put it in the chat for people that are watching. We'll put it in the show notes on the YouTube page so people can get that also.
And I'm using the 90-watt model. I think there's also a 110-watt model, which would give you some more juice. Hey,
Bog's listening in. How's it going, Bog? Good to have you on. Yeah.
The lower wattage docks would not charge the Chromebooks. They would charge the iPads, but the Chromebooks pulled too much juice.
Mm-hmm. So
Chad, have you tried those?
You're trading off the need for horizontal space with this particular type of setup, though, right? You need like a counter or something.
Yep, and that's what my teachers I asked them. Here's your choices, and I asked them, do you want a freaking cart on wheels? I hope not, but I'm letting you choose. Do you want a vertical metal enclosure like Lance has, right? You have something, what's it called?
We use the Powergistics.
Towers.
Yeah. And
I would make a recommendation, if you go with those, put them on opposite sides of the room. Don't put them right by each other.
Right, because it causes congestion.
Yes.
So that's what my teacher said about the cows, and in the other enclosure that I offered, they said they could space these around the room, so when the kids go to get them, only 8 are going here, 8 are going here, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, spread them out.
So, and plus they aren't getting into a case of any kind; they're just right there. They just grab them quick. It's way quicker to get them off this thing than it is out of a enclosure.
Well, ours aren't enclosed, so ours are shelves. Like, we don't put the locking gate on. We just do the shelves, but again, we're doing, I want to say, is it 10 and 10 or, 12 and 12 or whatever it is per classroom. So the idea of having more spread around, I like that too.
Nice.
If you got the space.
Yeah.
So that's what's new for Chad. Unitech.
Yeah.
Nice.
Unitech.
So a lot of people got really excited about my what's new. Actually, just announced this week, the Vault export, PST file export from Vault. I guess there's still a lot of people that still use Outlook and don't want to be bothered with a different application for opening up Mbox files. But you now can do a export to PST directly from Vault. I'm really hoping that someday we get to export direct to PDF. But I don't know if that's on anybody's radar. Googlers, if you're listening, make that happen. But the PST file export got a lot of coverage on the GAF admins community. And so if you were waiting for Vault to have PST export, it's there under export. You can choose PST, and go back and open it in Outlook.
Carl, it makes me incredibly sad that people that have Gmail are still using Outlook. That is fucking dumb.
I cannot disagree with you there. However, there is a large number of GAF admins, at least from my anecdotal data study that I've done by combing through the GAF admins
from the community.
Google Plus community, that are very excited to be able to do this. So have at it. It's there. Congratulations. I know people are super jacked by it. This particular new thing will not affect my workflow one bit at all, but it's there. Enjoy.
All right.
Thank you, because I'm not going to be able to use that, but I'm
not going to be able to, or not going to want to.
Either.
There you go.
So, anyways, my new what's going on? I found out that this is for non-GAM users. So if you're a GAM user, just
I'll plug my ears.
I guess you won't. Yeah, plug your ears. You're not even going to notice a difference. But I do not have my student information system synced with any of my any of that type setup. What I do is I do add users that are new to the district. Little elementary students passwords already, and in the past it's defaulted require user to change password at next sign-in. Well, I don't know, probably a week or two ago I noticed that is no longer required. So I do not have to go back into the user. I do not have to uncheck the require user to change password at next sign-in.
Or use
so
GAM.
That is, yeah. No, this is for non-GAM users, Chad.
He said they did clearly put in his disclosure at the front. Bog Patterson from Boone, who's watching live, he did post on yours, Carl, the PST file. The Boone police will like that. So if you do have to do an export, let's say there's somebody asking you for a particular file, that may be where that comes in handy for you. So your workflow may not change until someone requests it in that manner.
So the first time the Boone Police Department requests email from my server, I will send it as a PST file.
And they'll be happy. And that's what we want to do. Keep them happy. All right. So my what's new.
Actually, they might not be happy after they read the file.
Yeah. So my what's new is a lot of people noticed it came really close to about the time that most of us, Chad, of course, you being the exception to the rule, when we were getting our devices in, Chrome, of course, dropped a new version, and it kind of messed with the enrollment the enrollment process. If you had your duckies made, or if you had your centipedes already set up, the process changed. So for those of you that normally do the enrollment, do some auto magic enrollment stuff, we did find out the keystroke was as soon as you came up to that first screen that said the let's start, is that what the button says? Or get started or something like that? You just have it put in the control key, you know, the control command E, the enrollment keystroke. And it doesn't look like anything happens, but it happens in the background where it keeps it from going to where it looks for an update, and it stops a few of the steps in the enrollment process, and then your workflow works properly. So we found that out. Carl wrote a nice rubber ducky script for that worked really well. So that's my what's new. One other what's new, this happened today, and shout out here to Chad Kafka. He noticed it. I didn't, because this is not something I pay that close attention to. If you go into Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, any of those, and you look at the file menu icons for, like, you know, the formatting icons, they changed their icons. Huge, I know.
Boom!
It's not huge. I think Google is trying to keep their graphic artists busy, because the change is so not noticeable and so minuscule that someone wasted a whole bunch of time on not a very big change.
But people noticed, because there was also a post on the GSFE admins community. Someone said, and they saw it in slides. Same type of thing. People noticed. I didn't. I totally was.
For those of you that were thinking, boy, this looks a little different, you are validated. It is different. I want to cycle back. I want to cycle back to your what's new, Lance.
What's new.
That update that came out, actually 58 plus is where that changed. And for those of you that haven't gone through that process, basically what it did is it required you to go through the OS update, thus making everything.
Yeah, right after you agreed to the EULA,
Yep.
it would force you to update.
Yep, and that really made things a lot longer. It was super annoying. The guys at Amplified IT, they pushed out a new Centipede script that took advantage of it right away. Those of us that were using the rubber duckies, we needed to do some testing, but I actually got the tip from Amplified as I was talking to them about what their Centipede was doing, and that was able to where we could get to that enrollment keystroke right before you clicked accept on the EULA. You threw that into your rubber ducky script, or make sure you got the up-to-date 58 plus Centipede code, and you were enrolling Chromebooks super fast. One thing that I did notice, and I think, Chad, you got caught by it too, is for whatever reason this year, the date time skew was significantly more finicky than it has been in the past. So we got 1,200 of the new Acer flips, and I know, Phil, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The Spin 11s, right? When I was trying to enroll them, I actually had to add keystrokes to change the date and time to get it closer to what it actually was, so that I could enroll it. Or I'd get a message about something to the effect of all of the information isn't there, or and I'd have to restart it all over again. It was super annoying. So I don't know if something changed or what it was going on with that.
Along those lines, something else that was super friggin' annoying is I had to touch every touch screen, because sometimes when I booted the stupid things up, one of the boxes would be highlighted, and then throw off the tab count to get to the Wi-Fi settings, or sorry, to get to the settings to change the date first, so it would hook to the Wi-Fi. So
that's always
sometimes,
happened for me too.
The first window, sometimes the bottom left box, I can't remember, I think it was language, but I can't remember for sure, would be highlighted. And if I didn't unhighlight it, all hell would break loose. So I had to remember.
Well, your script would be off.
Touch then duck.
Yeah.
Touch then duck.
Touch then duck.
So
oh crap, it's going the wrong way.
So, Carl, we've got a listener, Randy
could,
Damewood, who wants to know if there's a place where there's an example of the ducky script that you used. Would you be willing to put that on the GSFE admins here tonight or tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell no, we worked hard on that thing. It's ours.
I will sell it to you for 75 cents a Chromebook.
A Chromebook. There you go.
$10. CDWG charges $10 white glove.
Well, he's not white gloving. He's just giving him the script.
Right. So, yeah, the unboxing is probably the worst part. The script's just a minuscule piece. So I might agree with the 75 cents.
So what the Chromebook manufacturers need to do is they need to get on board with Amazon's like, what do they call it? The low stress packaging, where they take the trays out of the boxes already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, so I did that, the green packaging. I did that with when I got mine this summer through Sterling. They did green delivery. So they take them out of the box. They bring them in bins of, I think it was 20 or 40 in a bin. But it was, so I didn't have my boxes. Literally, we just, there they were. And then all my power supplies, we chunked them in a box. And
I want to use this to transition to talking about the Spin, Phil. One of the things that would have been a pain in the butt if that had happened, you can't scan the barcodes on the bottom of the Spins. So we had to scan the Acer
barcode on the box.
And they put barcode stickers all over the bag that the computer came in. And we remembered to scan those so we could get what we needed. But so you got a bunch of these, right, Phil? A bunch of the Spins too?
Yeah, I do. It was either these or the Yoga 23s, and it came down to support for us. So it came down to the quality of support that we were receiving from either Lenovo or Acer. Fire? Yeah, hey, that doesn't help either.
Oh, now they did come back and say Lenovo's done other testing that none of them have caught on fire.
Yeah,
they just smoked and got really hot.
So they are of the opinion where there's smoke, there's not necessarily fire.
They are of the opinion that students need to not kink their power cords.
Hey,
how does that
set
the webcam on fire?
Listen, this is not the first time.
I'm just telling you that the article was put out there. That's what they said. and that you're perfectly safe.
the
At least when
camera,
HP's original Chromebook power adapter blew up, they said it was a feature that they would allow you to exchange the power supplies.
Multiple times I've heard Lenovo say
USB-C.
Yeah, right. Multiple times I've heard Lenovo say this is an isolated incident on multiple incidences. And it's just, that's where we decided to go with the Acer. So
and how's that going?
Back to it's back to the Note 8.
Yeah. The Samsung that just falls apart.
You know, during the winter, that's a nice feature to have. Like you're getting in your car and it's cold.
Yes.
So
or if your plane has crashed in the mountains.
Yes.
Or those that didn't know about about this article, it was earlier this week. A school district in a location not to be named they pulled back all of their Chromebooks, all of their Lenovo Chromebooks, because they had 3 that the webcam started to smoke, I believe was the deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yes.
Yeah.
The webcam started to smoke, and so they pulled all of them back. And
which is impossible, which is almost impossible from personal experience.
I'm not sure what.
Wait, what's impossible? The webcam smoking or pulling them back?
Lenovo actually taking those machines back.
Oh no, Lenovo didn't take them back yet.
No.
The school district collected all the kids' devices and actually have them stored right now, as they
in a building that they don't want to have around for a while.
Right, they got a very well insured building that is now housing all their Lenovo N21s or 22s were the ones. I can't remember.
21s, I believe. 21s. But they pulled out the N21s and 22s because they had both.
But I think it was the N21s. Yep.
They're very similar in style. Very similar. So
how are those spins? How has the adopting those spins been going, Phil?
It's been going great. We put it at 3rd and 4th grade level, and our littles down there, they love them. They're durable, they're fast, they're bright, and the speakers are loud. So they enjoy that. What I like about it, like I said, is the support. I can call in, speak with somebody that doesn't have a canned response for everything, and I have access to the parts right there through Acer. So it's quick and it's really reliable.
Did you hand out the styluses? Styli?
I did. I did. I gave them to at first I gave them 5, and it was like the next day they said, "Can we have them all?" And I said, "Yeah."
You gave every kid 5?
Free 1.
Pocahontas is rolling in dough.
I don't know if Phil, you saw the picture. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know what was inside one of those styluses, so I cut it apart. And it has a little magnet in the end with some copper wrapped around it, and it's all used to create that electromagnetic field that allows the screen to know where the stylus is at in relation to the screen. There's not much to it, but it's pretty damn cool, the amount of stuff that they smushed inside of that plastic stylus. But I just needed to know. I did my own little what's inside YouTube to take apart to see what was in there.
So here's,
go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, I have one here. So it's just like your flips that you have, and it also, if you notice, well, we're on a podcast, so if you're watching this on the video end, you can see that there's a world-facing camera right there. And I've had pretty good luck so far with most of the apps. I've run across maybe 1 or 2 that it doesn't default there yet, but they're still working on that. So I think Wii Video was one of them.
Yeah, the Wii Video Android app allows you to switch back and forth between the world-facing camera and the other camera. But the web interface doesn't.
The other one only expects the webcam. You have to use the Android app to make it work.
And you can go to the settings, Chrome settings, content, and switch your default camera to the world-facing camera, and then use the video. And what's cool is that the developers are really starting to listen and make changes. So one of the apps that we use a lot was Seesaw. And just this week, I found out, I was told, and actually it's been a couple weeks, I guess, that the Seesaw Class app actually works on the Chrome devices now as well. And then you can switch back and forth between which camera you want to use. So you can use the world-facing camera in the Android app on the Chromebooks, whereas if you're using the web interface, it goes right to the default camera. So I think that's going to continue to be a place where we're going to see development from those app developers.
Yeah. So Bog asked in the chat there, what model of Acer? That's the R11 Spin or the Spin R11.
The R751TN.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll say that again. It's
all kinds of fancy. So
R75
R75
1TN.
Yep.
1TN. All right. I put that in the chat for you, Bog.
Now, we were talking before the show, Phil. You haven't started looking at dongles and things like that just yet for this device, right?
Right. Not yet.
Okay. So we got a bunch of these too, just like Phil did. And I went out and bought a cheap USB-C. Well, I bought myself a not so cheap one from Insignia because I wanted to test to see what it was. Because previously with our R11s, they had the HDMI port on the side, so it was just fine. But these don't have HDMI; it's just got just the USB-C out or USB-A. And so the Insignia one works really great. But then I went to Amazon and bought some real cheap $12 ones, and it works great except for on 2 TVs that we have in our middle school. And this Insignia one works. So one of the things that it gets to what you were talking about, Chad, is and Lance too, all USB-C cords and adapters are not equal. It's going to take some testing to find out which ones work with your environment so that things don't suck. But overall, we've been really happy with them too. They're great devices.
And remember, we got our hands on one at NITA.
Back at NITA, yep.
Yep. So we're not saying we're a big deal, but we're kind of a big deal. No, we're not. All right. So other things that are some tips and some stuff going on. We were talking about, and one of Phil's discoveries this summer was the require password change is no longer there for using or adding users directly from the admin console. And at that time, Chad and Karl were talking about GAM, of course, being a wonderful tool. This summer, I started playing with the Gopher tools, more specifically, the user Gopher from Amplified IT. We talked about it in Wisconsin at the conference, but really got down and dirty with it in creating my users. I thought, I'm going to try this out. They gave me nicely gave me access to it to try it out for my users. A really nice tool with a user interface that is really nice. Kudos to Andrew Stillman, writing a wonderful program there. It's based off a spreadsheet. It's an add-on, and the interface is just friendly. One thing I really liked about it was
Mr. Lennon.
Yes.
I still truly believe that the CLI is the best interface ever created.
Preach! Amen, brother.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
don't need a goddamn mouse, nor pretty. I would have been probably the last one to notice the stupid freaking icons in Google Apps.
I'm all about the pretty. I've told you that before and before. If it makes it easier for me and it's handy. But one of the features I really liked about it is the ability to, within the spreadsheet itself, to auto-generate passwords according to your password structure. So if you have, the need for 6 characters and 2 numbers or special characters, you can do it right in the spreadsheet. It'll auto-populate those, create them for you. One thing I did find out this summer, it wasn't using, I had created some users prior to, right at the beginning of summer, I created my second graders for next year. It just went to a website that auto-generated 6-letter words and numbers and copied them. Didn't really pay much attention to them. And one of the passwords was sexual something. And I actually just filled it in, had set the user up, and then I went back and looked through all the passwords, and I was like, oh, nope, might not want to have that password. The nice thing about User Gopher is you can actually have it email you. There'll be little cutouts, so you'll get a sheet of them, and it'll actually auto-generate like little business card size cutouts that you can give to the kids that has their username and their password on them. So it's got the little User Gopher logo on it, and it's based just like AutoCrap the way it generates it. But it is kind of cool that you can then cut those out. You don't have to create a whole sheet for a kid or half a sheet for a kid. You just push those out and cut them up and give them to the kids, and they've got a nice little reminder of what their username and password is. And it's not the CLI.
Nope.
So, Chad, you guys have the new ASUS with the world-facing camera, right?
Correct.
What? I've not even put my hands on one of those. How is that going for you guys?
Great. So we moved just the high school and second grade are getting those. The second grade has yet to get theirs because I had the cord issue. The new cords are slow. They should all be in by tomorrow based on Amazon tracking. So hoping to deploy those over the weekend so they'll have them Monday morning. But yeah, the high schoolers have them. So we moved from the HP 14-inch Chromebooks, which were heavy beasts, and probably, a good half of the kids mentioned right away as I was passing them out, man, this is a lot lighter. My backpack's not going to be so heavy. All kinds of comments like that. So that's the first thing. And then they've been ruggedized. So, I quite literally threw mine around the office without being able to damage it. But then you put them in the hands of, a bunch of high school kids, and we've had one smash screen. A kid punched it. I don't think any screen's gonna hold up to being punched. And then one kid dropped it. So it was a basketball player, so that matters because the kid is like 6'10", and he was using it to take video. So it was right in front of this 6'10" kid's face, and he dropped it, and it dropped right on the corner. And the only thing that happened is the bezel popped off, and there's a little magnet in there to keep it closed when it's closed. Popped out. So he just snapped that back in and snapped it together, and off he went. So he dropped it from about 6'8" onto the corner, onto a hard, like almost concrete, how hallways are. And it didn't do anything to the screen, just popped a magnet out, which was easy to put back in.
So you said it's the Acer Flip C213?
Sure. It has a different like full model number, but that's it. And we just got them handed out because we got started late. So I'm already getting requests from students to put apps in the Android store, and my Android deployment was a little jacked up the other day. Got that figured out. For whatever reason, it thought for a little bit that I had a third-party EMM, and then I'd go into security and check, and Google Play Services was listed as the. So I was like, "That's you. That's not third party."
They are their own third party.
They must have been for about 6 hours one day. So I got that figured out and started pushing out requests. I'm going to actually build a workflow at the high school level for students to request apps, just a simple Google form so they can fill it out. I told them at check-in if they did, I needed the app name, the URL to the Play Store, so I could go get it and find what it was to approve it. So I'm going to request for similar information there.
So your process right now is you're in charge of okaying all the apps and pushing them out?
For now, until Google catches up and I know Karl doesn't put special app admins in his council. I just don't have the people to do that currently. So they're all going to come through me for now, which will be a huge headache, and I'll get rid of it soon. But we're just getting started here with that process. But the swap out process went super well. I used my Google, and we were doing, it took us about 30 to 45 seconds per machine from the time the kid actually got it out of their bag and handed it to us, so we could check for damage, mark the damage so we could order parts to fix the old ones before we either resell them or reuse them in the middle school. So it was a very speedy process. I had two very, very helpful senior gentlemen, not old, not like senior citizen gentlemen, but seniors in high school that helped me do the check-in. So it was just three of us doing it all, and it went really, really well. Those two were great. So that's my experience so far.
Phil, are you doing anything with ARC yet on those Chromebooks?
No.
Okay. So
one issue.
Go ahead.
One
Jen.
issue. Sorry, I just remembered something. One issue that we've had just the last couple days is that the Chromebooks seem to be getting stuck in an update. So they're updating the OS, and they go to turn off, but don't turn all the way off. I found a workaround, but it took me a couple machines to figure out what the heck is going on. So the little power light on the side stays on, but the screen is off. It's not even, you know how they gray out, but they're still lit. You can tell the screen is off, but the Chromebook is still on, and it just hangs there. It doesn't fully reboot. So you have to hard power them, wait a second, and then power them back on. And it takes an abnormally long time for the white splash screen to come on. And then it's on for a second and then flicks back off and then comes back on and then all is fine. So it's a strange, I don't know what it's doing exactly, but I figured out that workaround and it's been working for us. But it happens when it shuts itself down to install the latest update. So if anyone runs into that, there is a workaround, at least with this model. That seems to work for us.
Why don't you just not have them restart for updates?
What? Why wouldn't I have them do the update? We're gonna stay on version 33 forever. So that
well, then you just go through and find out who's on what version and tell them to restart, but then it restarts on your schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, instead of auto.
And it's not universal. It only happens on a random few. So if you see it, that's the workaround.
All right.
So Chad, you mentioned the app approval process, and I think we've talked about this. It does. We talked about this, I think, a few different times. But this is an area where, because Chad, you and I are familiar with and use the Google Play for EDU process back when we were pushing apps to tablets. And that was great. When it worked, it was great. It didn't always work. The apps didn't always get to where they were supposed to be, but it empowered the teachers, right? And so with this new process, and I see both sides of it, right? There's so many apps out there that some tech directors are worried about the security of it, right? So what are the apps the kids are putting on the devices? And on the other hand, if you're thinking about it from an educational point of view, there's a lot of crappy apps out there. I looked at some of the iPads that we had, and I'm like, what's the point of some of these apps, right? So I see that, but I really like to empower the staff to be able to do that. And so, you kind of hit a little bit on what we're doing with the distributed approval. So I created a custom admin role that allows a user at each building, somebody that's already doing password resets and stuff like that, to approve some of the apps. So that the apps get out to the teachers quicker, so they can start playing around with them, and then we can get them out to the kids quicker. Created a real quick screencast for those folks. So did them a little training for them so they can figure out how to do it. But it's one less hoop that's in the way. And I know that we are not alone in complaining about the ungoogliness of this process. And so if you guys, folks that are listening, want to see this streamlined and improved, Google's going to listen. They will take all of our feedback and try to make life better. They've proven that for a long time with Google Apps. So unless they have a really good reason, they're gonna try to make it better, is really kind of how I've put it. But it's a workaround for us now to get it so it can get to the hands of folks quicker. I don't want to be the gatekeeper of everything. I don't want to make people wait on stuff, right?
Right. Yep. Something similar to the old way with Google Play for EDU store would be super fabulous.
Right. The other thing that I learned this week was the dinosaur game is blocked at the enterprise level by Google, and I can't unblock it.
So those unfamiliar, explain to them real quick, Carl. What's the dinosaur game?
So the game that all your kids played by turning off the Wi-Fi on their Chromebooks, and they had the dinosaur jumping over the cacti and tried to get the high score, and that got blocked. And it said it's blocked by your administrator. And I'm like, no, I did not do this. So I did some asking around at one of our collaboratives, and Amplified, one of their guys, got back to me and said, yeah, Google blocks that at the enterprise level. He also did share with me a link to the game that you can play online. So if you missed the dinosaur game on your enrolled devices, there are a number of people that have put them online for you to play. Okay,
but now that doesn't make any sense. And so I do have to give credit where credit's due. I learned this from Tim Lee. So it's a T-Rex in that game, Tyrannosaurus Rex. So when you don't have internet connection, you can jump the T-Rex. But do you know why it's a T-Rex?
I know why.
I know you know, Carl. Because he has little arms and can't reach the internet. So if it's online and you can reach the internet, it's not as funny.
This is true. This is true. All right, I'm going to move into my tip, and it actually is a couple different ones, and it's not GAM related this time, which I know is a big shock. But I have a bit.ly created, bit.ly/7 secure with a capital S. Google released on their update blog back on the 8th 7 ways for administrators to help secure accounts against phishing in G Suite. And a lot of them are ones that we've talked about before, like setting up DKIM and SPF records and that sort of thing to kind of be good citizens.
How'd that go for you, Carl?
It went great until I found out that my SIS was sending out messages that weren't authenticated. So I had to append my DKIM with extra IP number. So it was doing exactly what it was supposed to do.
It was.
Wait a minute, back. What happened? I was putting I'm trying to get that bit.ly in the chat, but it won't go in because it won't let me put a web address in.
So I had a parent email me that said, hey, I'm getting this notice that all of your Infinite Campus messages that you're sending out, Infinite Campus is our SIS, they're being marked as spam, and they're going to our spam folder. And I'm like, what is this? And it's because it's an unauthenticated setup. So similar to if you allow your users, for whatever ungodly reason, to send email from like their Yahoo account as their school district account, it's a spoofing is what it's doing, more or less. And it violates DKIM rules. And so because of my setup, I was actually sending a lot of our SIS emails to people's spam folders. So I had to add an extra IP number in the DNS text record for DKIM, and that's since taken care of it. But that's one of the things. It's a little bit daunting to do DNS records for some folks, but it really is worth the work to go in and do that because it's going to cut down on a lot of stuff, and it's going to get you some useful information in those DMARC records. You can put those through a tool like DMARCian to give you some idea on what's going on. Where is a lot of your spoofing, phishing attempts, where that stuff coming from? DMARCian isn't a free tool, but it's inexpensive enough that it's worth it. In fact, you could even push your DMARC records right to DMARCian instead of having to upload them manually. I upload them manually to look at them once in a while, just to kind of see where things are at. The other big thing that it talks about, and it's a conversation that we've had too, is two-step verification and enforced two-step verification. Now I know, Lance, you guys have forced two-step for all of your staff, correct?
Yes.
And you are using YubiKeys or not using YubiKey?
We have some out there in the wild, but no, we haven't rolled those out to the staff. So I have a couple of my users, and I have one, but I more often use the Authenticator app on my phone.
Okay. Chad, how about you?
That's what I'm pushing my staff to as well, is the Authenticator app, or just the text message. I pulled all my staff that showed up for PD, and not one of them didn't have a cell phone capable of receiving a text message. So I think I'm good with rolling out two-step. And that might seem like a silly question, but I was dead serious when I was asking people that, because there there are people that don't have cell phones capable of receiving a text message, so you have to check.
Yep.
Because that's the simplest way, right? So I told them I would give them a couple weeks here at the beginning of school, and then I would give them a 2-week warning period before it auto enforced.
Yep.
So we're going 2-step as well for all staff members.
Phil, are you guys?
When we did our 2-step, we did the same thing. And as we said, you'll have 2 weeks to do it. And thank God my superintendent was very much in favor of it. He said, if someone does not do it, so the drop dead date was on a Friday, he said, nope, if they can't get in, you let them go all weekend and don't let it on until afternoon on Monday. And I was like, okay. So it locked them out of their accounts for 2.5 days. And he's like, they had 2 weeks. They could have gotten it done.
Phil, are you guys using it, Pokey?
We're in the process of implementing it. So we're still collecting the information and trying to figure out how we're going to push that out.
Okay. So here we started with administrators. We turned it on so our users can choose 2-factor if they want. But I wanted the administration to try it first. So that we played with it for a while. All the IT department was included in that. But the superintendent, the building principals, all the directors, we all started with it first, so that we kind of lead by example. And so then the plan is this year is that we started sending out notices already. I'm using Boomerang, which is an awesome Gmail Chrome extension that allows me to time emails to get sent out. But created a little screencast. Actually, I modified yours, Lance, and used yours as an example because it worked really great. So I just changed a few things. Sent that out to staff and said, hey, please start getting this set up because we're going to set our automatic enforcement date as the first day back for the second semester. So we're giving our staff a really long time to get on board. And it might almost be a double-edged sword because they have too long to forget it. So that's why we're using Boomerang to send it every couple weeks to remind them, because Google will only do it for 3 days. Your users, if you don't have 2-factor for the 3 days before the drop dead date, when they log in, they'll be notified to set it up. That's all you get. And then if they don't, set up 2-factor authentication, Mr. Lennon, what happens? And how do you get them in?
You're locked out, and then you actually have to turn off 2-factor for that organizational unit so that they can log in, and then you have to turn it back on and set an enforcement date so that they have time to set up a 2-factor. It's a pain in the hippopotamus.
Right, and that's one of the things that kind of made me mad, and I actually filled out a feature request for something with Google to kind of change this process because we want users to be secure, but I don't want it to be a pain in the butt for the IT department. So if a user gets locked out, then it's on me to go in and unlock it for them so that they can get into it. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. Not a big enough pain to stop me from wanting to do this and going forward with it, but we're still going to do it. The other thing that came out recently in 2-factor is you're getting an automatic window for new users. You could choose a different date range. So you can say, I'm going to create a new user, and within 2 weeks, a new user in this OU has to have 2-factor set up automatically. That's on the 2-factor setup page under security that you can get set up to. That's relatively new. We first saw that. We didn't know what it was, so we had to do some digging to ask, what exactly does this do? And in the end, it works pretty slick for new users. Anything else you guys want to chime in on 2-factor? And now I'm going to move on to one other thing in this list.
YubiKey does have their keys on sale right now. Instead of being 2 for $36, it's 2 for $18, or they're $18 a piece. They're half price.
What's the YubiKey, Lance?
The YubiKey is, I don't even have it with me. It's the little USB, and then it doesn't actually read your thumbprint, but it reads just the heat signature or something like that from your finger, and it's a token for your authentication. Instead of having to use the authenticator app or get a text, you carry that with you and plug it in, and as soon as you touch it, it authenticates you and you're good to go.
The other thing that showed up on this list of 7 steps I didn't know existed was the password alert extension for Chrome. And I've started doing some digging into this, and what it does is it's a Chrome extension that you can push out to your users that will notify them if they're going to a page and using your Google credentials on a site that might be in some way suspicious. And then as an admin, there's a whole bunch of documentation for this. As an admin, you can actually set up an alert server for you as an admin to get notified if your users are giving out their passwords on sites where they shouldn't be. So for our next, I'm hoping for the next podcast, but it's going to come up pretty quick at iTech. I want to try to get this up and going to see how it works. And if anybody in the community is using it, it'd be awesome to hear from you. But this to me looks really, really interesting to push out a forced installed extension. It's just called Password Alert is all it is. And it hangs out in Chrome. It's definitely worth checking out. I know that I'm going to dig into it, as well as the newly OAuth whitelisting for apps. That's not quite matured yet. It'll continue to get better, but that's another place too. So the biggest, and when I talk to folks about security relative to Google Apps, and it's really relative to anything on a computer, your biggest security hole is the end user. It's the human nature of trusting everybody that causes the issues. I mean, you look at that absolutely from a nerdy perspective, and we've talked about it, that absolutely awesome script that got passed around and just propagated itself so fast last school year, where you'd click on it and it looked like an app. You'd say, yep, go right ahead, here are my credentials. And next thing you know, everybody had access to this and it just spread like wildfire. And things like this are great, but we really need to educate our users so they're not falling prey to some of this sort of stuff. So definitely spend some time looking at some of those security settings, bit.ly/7 secure, capital S. There you go.
And I put that bit.ly in the chat. I had to put the period between the bit and the ly in parentheses because chat doesn't take URLs if you're watching right now. If not, check the show notes. It'll be in, if you do the feed, it'll be in there, and I'll try and get it in the description in the YouTube video. So that'll be out there. So, Chad, you got anything new and exciting? Tips, tricks?
No.
Okay. Excellent. As Karl said, our next podcast is going to be a live broadcast.
I had one, but it's a
20-minute one.
It's too long. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the next podcast, Lance?
No, I was going to let that one set for a sec.
Oh, gotcha.
All right.
You sure you just don't want to give us the tip?
Awkward pause.
Come on,
all right.
Chad.
So, next podcast, we are doing a live broadcast from iTech. We will be Tuesday, October 17th at 11:20 a.m. Central Daylight Time. We'll still be on Daylight Time, yeah. And so, again, we'll record it. You don't have to be there at that point in time. But if you are in Iowa and you are going to iTech, we'd appreciate you coming. We'll have a question and answer.
If you're in Iowa, you should go to iTech.
Yes. Even if you're not in Iowa, you should go to iTech. You should really go there. It's a wonderful conference. But we will be broadcasting live at the Podcast Pavilion. There'll be 8 different podcasts from Iowa educators. So really nice opportunity for us again. Kind of one of those fun things that we get to do sometimes is get to meet together in person and chat with people that listen to us. So we've got about 6 minutes left. Doesn't mean we have to fill it all, but
I did add a link to my Google Doc that has the rubber ducky script to the podcast announcement on the GAF admin Google community.
Excellent. I saw that you posted on that one. Randy did ask, do we have any links to the sessions from the conference this summer in Wisconsin? Chad, did we have those up somewhere? The session resources?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I would have to look. I'll get that to you so we can post it.
All right. There you go, Randy.
I'm on my phone right now, so it's a little hard to
it almost looks like you're literally on your phone because we're looking up at you. It was very intimidating all show. I just want you to know that. All right. Anything else? Anything for the good of the
Looks like I have a
cause?
tiny head now. It looks like I have a tiny
He's a
head.
genie.
Tiny head.
I dream of Chad Ferricks.
Ooh, don't do that.
And on that note,
Especially
Just
my
gonna let
tip.
that one sit. We're just gonna let it sit.
oh,
Let it rise.
No. Don't do that either.
No.
All right. Okay. Well, if we have nothing else, then we will say goodnight to everybody. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for following the podcast. And next time is live. And have a great week. Great month. Half a month, however long
Thanks for
before we're on
watching,
again.
listening,
later.
whatever.